Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. So, stablecoin initiatives. There has been a lot of movement around stablecoins in the last couple of days, and it's right off the back of the Ripple announcement of them really kind of bringing in a stablecoin of their own. And I find it very, very interesting. But we have US senators introduce new bill to establish a regulatory framework for stablecoins. And this is actually from Tranglo. They're posting it. It's an original post by Cointelegraph actually over here. We have US senators introduce a new stablecoin bill. Now, I'm not going to waste your guys' time and all that kind of stuff. There's a few things within here. The key benefits is protects consumers by requiring stablecoin issuers to maintain one-to-one reserves, prevents illicit or unauthorized use of stablecoins by issuers and users, prohibits algorithmic stablecoins, and cracks down on bad actors, creates federal and state regulatory regimes for stablecoin issuers that preserve the dual banking system. Now, outside of this, there was actually a great post by Taylor Barr regarding this, and we actually have the full breakdown of the bill itself outside of just these key benefits over here in the Cointelegraph post. And we have the bill allows banks and non-bank trust companies to issue stablecoins through dedicated subsidiaries, bans unbacked algorithmic stablecoins, introduces capital and one-to-one reserve requirements, permits state financial regulators to authorize and supervise stablecoin issuing trust companies below 10 billion, a figure based on an outstanding value of a firm's issued coins. Gives the Federal Reserve power to issue enforcement actions against stablecoin firms larger than $10 billion, but be required to take joint action with state authorities below that threshold. So definitely some interesting things. And one quick note here we have, this is a distinct effort from Patrick McHenry's stablecoin bill in the House. The new bill is mostly a standalone version of the Loomis Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act's stablecoin text with some important updates. So very interesting stuff. Very significant moves being made as well. Remember, this is US stablecoin initiative, so we're starting to kind of see some traction in the US around regulations, which is a very, very good thing. And stablecoins are definitely the big starting point because remember, I've always mentioned 2022, even though it was a bear market, stablecoins moved over $11 trillion worth of value. That's not a small penny. But outside of this, there was also another update actually on the 16th, which is Senate Banking Committee Chair wants to combine stablecoin bill to boost chance of passage. And that's basically what we are seeing through a lot of this. And, it's interesting because, these are the movements that everyone has been waiting for because we've been calling on the idea that why are stablecoins not regulated in the US? Why is there no movement happening here? And remember, Back in September, the Fed said that it can regulate stablecoins. So why doesn't it? This is from the American Banker. This was September of 2023. So now we're starting to kind of see some movement here. Now, interesting. There's an interesting post actually made by 801_XRP. This goes back to November 7th, 2023, November 7th. And this was actually a video. It's about 3 minutes and 20 seconds long. And it's talking about DLT, shared ledgers, payments, settlements, all that kind of stuff. And stablecoins are a big focus. Now, mind you, the BIS just recently posted about their Finternet idea, which also does include shared ledgers, DLT, blockchain, all that kind of stuff. But what I find very interesting about this topic is not only the individual involved here, but also the focus on stablecoins and even crypto. We have, it's hard to say what the future of unbacked crypto or even stablecoins is in the future system, but the DLT and shared ledgers, the potential to that to bring efficiencies to payments and settlements seems pretty like high potential. Check this out.
Really taking a leadership role in kind of thinking through both the stablecoin and CBDC issues. I'll just sort of break them into one of two, so we have a little bit of time. From a CBDC standpoint, have you learned or thought about, or as your thinking sort of evolved a little bit about CBDCs? You talk about internationally, a lot of your counterparts and others are kind of vocal on that issue.
Right. So I think innovation, the whole theme of financial innovation and payments is that's just an active area. So whether it's 2 years ago or this year or, coming, I don't think this is an area we'll stay active in. I think broadly, our approach to that has been the same. What need is it filling, this new technology? Can we govern it? Can we manage the risks? So I think for the CBDC, and this is more a central bank, not Treasury decision. It's a liability of the central bank, so it'll be their decision to make whether they would want to issue it. I think there's been interest within the global central bank world of wholesale, how it meets the needs for better, more efficient settlements. And there feels like there's a need there, and I think there's a lot of experimentation going on in terms of across banks, central banks, in how to do this. And I think that's being involved in the design and experimentation and setting up the standards and requirements seems like a good place to be. The report that we wrote 2 years ago on stablecoins was about if the private sector wants to create a payment mechanism, this is what the regulatory framework should look like. It is payments, so my view is that should be within the federal regulatory system. And it should make sure that if it offers $1, it should be able to be redeemed at $1. And so there's a set of regulations we would propose, and we still very strongly encourage legislation on this. We think that there is a gap in this case. But more broadly speaking, like this whole technology, the crypto technology, it's hard to say. I don't know where you are on this these days, like what the future of unbacked crypto or even stable coins is in the future system. But the distributed ledger technology and the shared ledgers, the potential for that to bring efficiencies to payment and settlement seem pretty like high potential. And I think that's an area we want to be thinking about how to, promote, allow for the benefits of that, allow private sector to innovate there, and still manage the risks of such an important function for the economy, right? So that's where we've been on that.
Now, it seems like they're all on the same page. This was back in November, just recently, like I want to say like a couple days ago now. The BIS put out their Finternet, shared ledgers, DLT, payments, stablecoins. It included pretty much majority of what we have been addressing around this space, which is why I said like it confirmed everything that we thought about when it comes to this like internet of value almost. And remember, like this is an individual that is from the U.S. Treasury, the Secretary of Domestic Finance at the U.S. Treasury, Nellie Liang. And even if we go over to her, page over here on the U.S. Department of the Treasury, we can see a full breakdown of what she's doing, who she is, and this is basically just monetary policy, really kind of bringing in the information and the education around what's happening around our current system and how these digital assets and this digital technology can truly revolutionize and change the way that we are making payments, how we are settling payments. And this is basically just reiterating what we've been hearing for the longest time from some of these companies like Ripple in this space on how we can start moving money in the fastest way possible. Now, what's funny about this is also, on the same topic of stablecoins, recently the BIS has been going heavy on stablecoin considerations, regulations, talking about it. Back in October, they said considerations for the use of stablecoin arrangements and cross-border payments, followed by this in November. Will the real stablecoin please stand up? Just really kind of addressing like, hey, like there's a lot of unbacked stablecoins still in this market, and they're considering them, in quotation marks, stable, which majority of them are actually not stable. They're, illegitimate, and they're just, falsified stablecoins in the sense, hidden in disguise. Just like you go back to, Terra Luna and how, Terra, their stablecoin, just completely imploded. Like that's the issue with the space. And that's why when we look at regulations and things like that, now we're starting to see the heavy discussions around that. Even over here, we have recommendations for the regulation, supervision, and oversight of global stablecoin arrangements executive summary. This is February 29th. like I said, these elite organizations, the elites are ready. They have been ready for a very long time. And now we're starting to see the plan in action, which is let's regulate, let's regulate, let's regulate. And I've always said by the end of 2025, we will have regulations over the space. Somewhere around the end of 2025, possibly even like Q2 of 2026, we're going to see heavy discussions around regulations. Now, it could be some time until they are fully implemented, but regulations are already planned around that time. We know that with the FSB, with the G20, the BIS, and even the IMF. Now, outside of this, why do I think that they are talking about stablecoins heavily? And why do I think that Ripple has a major opportunity here? Well, it's because of what the Federal Reserve has been doing. Outside of them, saying like, hey, like we could regulate stablecoins whenever we want. They also said like, stablecoins still worry us. This is back in February. This is February 10th, actually, of this year. Why crypto stablecoins still worry the Fed, and specifically USDC and Tether as well. But over here we have U.S. Federal Reserve, Gov Waller says DeFi could boost dollars' global strength, and same with even stablecoins. They said stablecoins are also pegged to the dollar. They are dollar-dependent stablecoins. That's why even when we look at Ripple, right? The reason why Ripple stablecoin is big is because if it is as big as we think it is going to be, and if everyone is right on the fact that, like, listen, Ripple is going to win this SEC lawsuit. They're going to clear their name. That means that Ripple's stablecoin could be the biggest stablecoin on the market and even be heavy. Like, we're talking about even more adopted and utilized than Circle's USDC. If that is the case, imagine how big that is going to be even in the US, for an example, for the Federal Reserve, because they love stablecoins as well. They are in support of stablecoins, which if the stablecoin from Ripple gets support from the Federal Reserve, imagine how big that is going to be for Ripple. Now, talking about that, Brad Garlinghouse was actually recently on Fox Business, where he covered a ton of things in terms of the Bitcoin halving, his predictions around the crypto market by the end of the year, how pro-innovation policies in the US will prevail, replace the SEC leadership, and step 2, Elizabeth Warren's staff should read some actual facts on crypto instead of spewing constant misinformation, and why Ripple is launching a USD-backed stablecoin on the XRP Ledger and ETH this year. We have some bombs being dropped by Brad Garlinghouse. Listen closely to this. It's about a 5-minute and 16-second long clip that got posted by Bank XRP. Big shout out to Bank XRP for this. Again, it's a little bit of a long clip. You probably already heard it. Don't want to listen to it. It's okay. You guys can skip ahead.
This morning. Joining me right now exclusively is the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse. Brad, it's great to see you.
Great to see you again.
Thank you so much for being here. First, assess where we are in this market, because crypto is up huge in just the last couple of weeks, right?
Well, it's been up. It came down a little bit this past weekend. But I think if you step back here over the last 6 months, Bitcoin's up about 250%. I think you're going to continue to see tailwinds, partly because of the ETFs that have been approved, which you and I spoke about in Davos, but also the upcoming halving, which is imminent.
Yeah, it's a great point. The ETF introduction really broadened out the market in terms of potential users, I think, and people wanted to get in on it, so they bought an ETF to do so. But you recently predicted that the crypto market will double in size to $5 trillion by the end of 2024. That is a big prediction just by the end of this year.
Yeah, I don't even feel like it's that big a prediction when you step back. And, like any market, this is driven by supply and demand. You have decreasing supply for a whole bunch of reasons, the halving of Bitcoin being an important one. You have an increasing demand, the ETF being a key part of that. And I think it's also people realizing that crypto plays a role as an asset. It's a $2.5 trillion market. Maybe it's a little less than that now. But so it's basically just predicting it's going to double by the end of the year. And if anything, I think I probably under-predicted that.
I feel like Washington is still trying to understand this market, and the people writing the legislation, potential legislation here to put barriers and around this market. I don't know that they really understand the strength and the growth story here. But you think putting regulation around this, putting barriers in place is going to be a positive for this market?
There is no question. I mean, one of the headwinds that has held back the market the largest economy in the world, the United States, has been one of the most problematic for the crypto market. Innovation, entrepreneurs, and capital have flown into markets that have actually constructively engaged this market. So Dubai, Singapore, even the UK, the EU has passed legislative progress here. The U.S. has really been behind the 8 ball. This administration, I think, has taken a pretty anti-crypto stance, led by the SEC. Gary Gensler, as the chair, has really taken...
Because he doesn't understand it.
I think there's
well, maybe he does, and the people working for him don't.
It's not clear to me. I mean, clearly, I think you have politicians, and I would frankly call out Elizabeth Warren goes out and says the only people using crypto are, bad actors. It's just not true. And the U.S. should have a pro-innovation, pro-compliance policy. This is good for, in terms of growing jobs, high-paying jobs, growing the economy. And I think you're seeing, people go out and just, talking points around anti-crypto that it doesn't even make sense. This shouldn't even be a partisan issue. This is about growing our economy.
Yeah.
This is about leading the next wave of innovation. I was around Silicon Valley when the internet was booming, massive amount of value creation, massive amount of job creation. The blockchain and crypto space is here to stay, and I think that's become clearer and clearer. But the U.S. government needs to embrace that and put those clear rules around it so that all participants can play and grow.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned all of those countries, because that's also an opportunity for you, obviously, at Ripple. I want to get your take on that, because you recently announced Ripple is launching a U.S. dollar-backed stablecoin later this year. You say this bridges the gap between traditional finance and cryptocurrency. Tell us how that will play out, why it's valuable, and give us the growth story for Ripple. Where does growth come from at your company in the coming 3 years?
So to start on that last piece, Ripple, about over 95% of our customers are non-U.S. financial institutions. We sell payment solutions, we sell custody solutions around blockchain and crypto. We're going to keep expanding, even though the U.S. market, as we were talking about earlier, partly from a regulatory point of view, has been slow to adopt. The non-U.S. market has been really, really strong for us. And you're
going to be the infrastructure around all of that.
That is our goal. And we think that opportunity is huge. We think that's going to be great for Ripple. We think it's going to be great for XRP, which is a digital asset we use. So I'm very, very optimistic about that. I just think that the U.S. needs to figure it out.
And the stablecoin?
Oh, the stablecoin. So Ripple has always been about how do we bridge this new world with a traditional kind of, people call it TradFi, traditional finance. And Ripple has always been that bridge. We started around payments and we sell into banks. A stablecoin, the demand for stablecoins has exceeded, I think, what people thought. It's a $150 billion asset class right now. Some forecast it to be over 2-3 trillion in a few years. The players in that space, particularly one called Tether, is a non-U.S. based entity. And the U.S., frankly, is kind of going after that because they want this to be regulated. Just yesterday, there's a new bill introduced in the Senate to create some stablecoin legislation, which I think is a positive step of hey, finally, we might get some forward momentum there. But I think that market's going to grow a lot. I think a U.S.-based player who is compliance first has a great role to play.
It's a great story to tell. Brad, thank you so much for being here.
It's good to see you.
Great to see you.
So there you guys have it. And again, as we really look at what's going on here, outside of all the ideas of oh, Elizabeth Warren this, all that kind of stuff, the biggest thing that I really look at when it comes to these discussions is where Ripple is positioned in this entire realm of, all right, now we have US dollar-backed stablecoins. We're starting to see stablecoin initiatives around regulations and compliance. And at the same exact time, regulations around the entire space is also heating up, while institutions are now taking part in the entire space as well. Ripple is at a very, very significant point where the entire space is about basically on the edge of a paradigm shift. I love the fact that Brad did mention the .com bubble and the .com era, because if we go back to that time when we kind of compare it to where we are at now, what would you say Ripple is? Do you think Ripple's a Google or an Amazon of the world? Because in my opinion, I don't see how Ripple does not fit that narrative. I don't see how Ripple does not become as big as one of those companies. Once we start to see crypto mature greatly, we have regulations in place and utility actually matters. At that point, Ripple becomes a very significant private company and possibly even a public company if they do IPO. And everyone's questioning like, all right, well, where does XRP stand in that? Because remember, XRP is not Ripple. Ripple is not XRP. Well, XRP does benefit greatly from all of this because this US dollar backed stablecoin is on the XRP ledger. Ripple is also pushing initiatives through Ripple XDev to build out institutional DeFi initiatives on the XRP ledger as well. So XRP and the XRP ledger is going to be greatly impacted by this because it only puts Ripple into a much more dominant position over the entire space. And even like I said, like this US dollar backed stablecoin that Ripple is pushing, guess what? It could very well be bigger than Tether. It could be bigger than USDC. And also, mind you, just recently, big shout out to XRP Drops, the CFTC mentioned Tether, the world's largest stablecoin with a market capitalization of more than 100 billion, would not be classified as a stablecoin under the proposed CFTC taxonomy. This is, a new stablecoin bill. Things will not get better for Tether. See the post below. And yeah, I mean, like, as we really look at Tether, when we look at a lot of stablecoins in this market, you can't even hold them on the same scale as something like, Ripple stablecoin, because this thing is going to change the stablecoin game forever. Why? Because Ripple is a company, when they are doing something, they're not doing it, halfway. They are going all in on it. They are making sure that every step of the way is taken because they want to make sure that they are compliant. They are, working with regulators. And for anybody that is going to say, oh, well, they got sued by the SEC, they tried to have discussions and meetings with the SEC. They were completely, stopped out at the door. They were given zero clarity. So as a company, like Ripple has always tried to work with regulators. They've always tried to be compliant and get clarity, but they never received it. So with all of that in mind, I do think that one, Ripple and the entire market is ready for regulation. I really do think so. Most of the market will definitely be wiped out because of regulations. But as we look at what we are starting to see, the US Treasury definitely, is prepared for things like this because they've been talking about stablecoins and even unbacked crypto for a while. The BIS has been pushing and pushing and pushing. The elites have always been prepared. Like, this is not something new, right? The elites are prepared to bring regulations to, stable coins and things like that because they have been preparing for this new financial system. That Finternet post by the BIS told us everything that we need to know. And I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, this is clickbait. Guys, go read the post for yourself. It's not clickbait. Like, this is the legit new financial system being created in front of us. All you have to do is be patient. And all you have to do is do a little bit more research. But as we really look at everything, it's aligning perfectly, in my opinion, for what Ripple is doing with this stablecoin initiative. And it only puts Ripple into a much more dominant position. And it really does provide a lot of great value and benefits to the XRP ledger and even XRP as well. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on because more free content. There's more, follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.